Hey folks, David here on the Vintage Future once again, and today I want to share with you a very special pair of boots. It's these Alden Plain Toe Boots in Horween Color 8 Shell Cordovan from the Alden shop in San Francisco, California. Let's jump in. So first of all, what is so special about this particular pair to me? Well, first of all, it's my first pair of Shell Cordovan footwear ever. I've had other things, like wallets and stuff in Shell Cordovan, but I had never until this point had Shell Cordovan footwear. So it represents my first venture into the world of Shell Cordovan footwear. In addition to that, this particular color 8, you could also call it burgundy, is a pretty special color in my family. So all growing up, on Saturday nights often, before church the next day, I would find my dad with Cole Haan pinch tassel loafers in the burgundy color. It's called Cordovan, but it's not actually Shell Cordovan, but it is the same color. And he'd be polishing these, with polish and water and spit, and he'd make them nice and clean. These ones are retired now, but he's had dozens of pairs of these through the years. And these ones are actually made in India, but originally when he started getting these, I think it was like maybe the late 80s, early 90s. It was when Cole Haan was, I think, still manufacturing in Italy. But anyways, this is what I grew up seeing him wear. So tassel loafers are special to me for sentimental reasons. I don't wear them, but I like them because of him wearing them. And, he wears other stuff now, but for years he wore these, so I borrowed these for this video. But this color is really special in my family. And so on Sundays, to just kind of carry on the tradition, whether it's Chrome XL or Shell Cordovan, I try to wear something burgundy, something color 8, at least in the morning when we go to church, and then after that often I change into something else. But yeah, it's a pretty special color. And the other thing about this pair of boots is it represents a big breakthrough for me as far as fit and sizing goes. I've had other boots that I would say fit good, okay? So I'm not detracting from that, but this is the first pair that, in my opinion, I actually fit correctly. If you're going to be technical about it. If you're going to talk about, alignment and shape and volume, using the Brannick device. It's the first pair of footwear that I've ever had that I think I actually fit correctly by the book. So let's jump into it. I'm going to talk about the basic features, some of the things that I like about the boots, some of the things that I don't like about the boots, and then finally fit and sizing for anyone who's interested in this sort of thing. So starting at the bottom, as I normally do, we have the Alden proprietary Commando half sole. It's a little squishy, but pretty durable. It's a nice all-around sole. I like it. And then you've got a leatherboard heel stack. We'll get into that later. And, the midsole is leather and the insole is leather. It's got cork filler in there like you'll find in a lot of boots like this. It has a ribbed steel shank inside, nice hefty shank for support. That's good. You've got a 360-degree split reverse welt. Goes all the way around. Theirs are actually pre-stitched. In other words, they stitch one side. I think it's the side that goes into the upper first, and then later they stitch the rest down through the sole. But regardless, it's partly pre-stitched, and then they put it all together. The pre-stitched 360-degree split reverse welt. You see the welt joint right here. Plain toe. There is some toe structure in here. It's not solid as a rock, but it's not unstructured. Got a nice clean quarter on both sides. A back strip because there's an internal heel counter, so you don't have that big heel stay piece that goes all the way across the back. Especially on boots with the True Balance last or the Barrie last, like this one, you'll have an extended heel counter. So the heel counter is going to go up to about here instead of back here, like on most boots and shoes. And that's going to give you extra support up into the waist area of your foot, not just the heel, for maximal support and anchoring. So leather heel counter in there. You've got painted hardware, 5 eyelets and 4 speed hooks, some French binding, going up and around instead of just a raw cut edge. One thing I like about Alden is they have this hardware cover in here. It's leather that they sew over the inside, so it covers up the hardware, and it looks a little classy, which is one purpose for it, but it also prevents this hardware from scratching the tongue. See, this is exposed. So if it was all like this all the way up to here, often this would, scratch the tongue, or maybe even if you have wide ankles, it could scratch your ankle. So I like how they cover that up, keep it classy, keep it safe, all that stuff. On the inside, it's lined all the way through. You've got a floating tongue, so it's not gusseted. This is also made out of shell Cordovan. It's just stitched across the instep here. You have a leather heel pad with some foam underneath with the Alden logo, a genuine leather insole, and then lastly, right here, you've got the sizing information and the model number. This is a 9.5D Barrie last. And this is a B/D. It's a combination last. Alden does that a lot, actually. So in other words, it's a B width in the heel, but a D width in the ball. And they'll just call it a 9.5D. So anyways, that is the boot. Now, what do I like about it, and what do I not like about it? Well, as you may have picked up already, I like some of the things they do with this, right? Like, I like this cover over the hardware. I really think that's a great, classy vibe. Even some more expensive companies that I've owned and have now, like Edward Green, they don't do that. They just leave the hardware exposed. So I like how they kind of set themselves apart. They're like, hey, we're not a rugged boot company. We make classy things, refined things. And so you have that there. I like that. I like the extended heel counter that I talked about. I do feel the difference. I like the arch support. I don't hate boots with a flat bottom like a Truman or a Viberg. They fit me fine. But I do see it changing the way I walk, whether you supinate or pronate, often that will be accentuated in a negative way if there's not arch support in a boot or shoe. Is it going to hurt you or kill you? No. But I think it helps you walk better when there's correct arch support. And so I like the arch support in these boots and shoes. I like some of the things that Alden offers, that they have so many different lasts and so many different sizes and widths. I went into the Alden shop in San Francisco, and Jim there, who I would highly recommend, very professional, very kind. He has gone above and beyond for me a couple times. A really great guy, and the other people that work there as well. But whether it's him or another shop, if you go into an Alden shop, it's an experience you're not going to get with most of these other companies. Most other companies, you're stuck ordering online, waiting a week or two. It finally comes to you. It doesn't fit right, or the leather's not like you thought it was, or it wasn't like in the pictures, or whatever. And it could just be a pain, and we've all had that experience. Sometimes you get something and you wear it for a while and realizing it's not for you, and then you got to sell it on eBay. What a pain, right? What a hassle. Well, with Alden, as long as you live near one of their stores, which they do have a decent amount of stores, or retailers anyways, you can go in, you can try on a bunch of different widths, a bunch of different sizes, and you'll find something that fits you really well and looks good at the same time. That's really cool. I like that they make shell Cordovan so readily available. With most companies, it's like a limited run thing or a special edition, or they have limited stock for shell Cordovan. It's just a lot more hard to find than a lot of other leathers out there. But with Alden, it's like click and buy. It's like almost as easy to get as Chrome XL with them. Hey, you want a Chrome XL Indie boot? Click and buy, no big deal. You want shell Cordovan in color 8 or black? You just go find the size, go find the model that you want, the pattern you like, just click and buy, no big deal. Send it to you, or you walk in, you just buy it that day, which is what I did. So I like that about them. I also like the idea of this boot, which is interesting because this boot actually represents many of the things that in the past I've hated. So in the past, I've never liked plain toe boots. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've owned a plain toe boot, and usually I end up getting rid of them pretty quick. I just don't, I'm typically not drawn to the plain toe style. I also typically don't like monochromatic things. This is kind of all one color, including the hardware and the stitching and everything. I usually don't like that either. So why did I get a boot which represents a lot of the stuff I don't like, which I don't like those things usually because I just find them boring, right? So even something like this tassel loafer, it's interesting, right? It may not be your style, but you have to admit, like, they actually tried to design something. Whereas a plain toe boot, in my mind, is like a lack of design. So with with this, I was drawn to it, but why? Well, I had gone to the store to actually get a pair of Alden Indies. But after I tried on several sizes and widths, I just realized the True Balance Last is not good for my foot. It's not terrible, but it's like the two shapes, the shape of my foot and the shape of the True Balance Last, they're like dissonant with one another. They're not congruent. You know, it was like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just like they're not meant to go together. It just, no matter what size, no matter what width, no matter what leather, it just feels awkward. And so I was just like, it's not terrible, but I'm probably not ever going to wear the True Balance. It's a great last for most people, but not me. I was a little dismayed, and I'm looking around and I see this thing, and it caused me to remember something that my friend Dale had told me. And Dale one time challenged me, and he was like, hey, dude, I know you don't like plain toe boots, but if you have a good leather, the nice thing about a plain toe boot is it actually gets everything out of the way to put the leather in the spotlight. It lets the leather steal the show instead of the pattern. Because something like this, you know, you might see the leather and think, oh, this is a beautiful shoe, but really you're looking at the tassel, right? You're looking at the strap. You're looking at the mock stitch or the apron toe or whatever, right? If it's a wingtip boot, you're looking at all that broguing. If it's a cap toe or a perforated cap toe, a brogued cap toe, you're looking at that cap toe, right? But with the plain toe boot, there's nothing really to look at except for this gorgeous leather. And so in that moment, I had this aha. I was not actually there to buy shell. I thought, oh, I'll get that some other date. But I saw this, and just in that moment, everything clicked. It was like, this is perfect. You know, what better boot, you know, is there out there for a first pair of shell Cordovan footwear, other than one that just puts this beautiful leather on display, this top grade leather on display. And so I just thought, yeah, it's monochromatic. It's usually something I don't like. It's plain, but that means everyone's going to see this toe right here, and that's going to be awesome. So I fell in love with it, got it. I also like the Barrie last. It's a very nice balanced last. I think that's why it's so famous. So it's quite possibly one of the most balanced lasts out there, in my opinion. It's not quite pointy, but it's not quite that round toe. It's not huge and chunky, but it's also not like a pancake toe either. It's not particularly wide, but it's not particularly narrow either. Because it's a combination last, it's going to fit a wide variety of feet. So it's snug in the heel, but not tight. It's snug in the waist, but not tight. You know, it's moderate volume in the instep, which means if you have a high instep or low instep, it could still work for you. You could make it work. It's got a decent amount of room in the ball, but not too much. And then it is sleek in the front while still being pretty roomy. So this hits the middle point, the intersection in my mind between like dressy and casual. It hits the intersection between, you know, Western, which is typically more Americana, like chunky, big, rugged, hyper masculine, even in the case of like the Viberg 310, which I love. Intersection between that and conversely the European take on it, which is usually, you know, elongated, very pointy, right? So this is just such a great last. The last thing that I really love about this boot is, of course, the shell Cordovan, right? You're probably waiting for me to talk about the shell. Man, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just got such a depth of color. It's a self-nourishing leather, just like Chrome Excel. In other words, it has so many fats, waxes, and oils that it's meant to nourish itself simply by you brushing it like this. If you just brush it for several minutes, it's going to take a lot of work, going to make your arms sore. But you know, you just brush lightly like this as the bristles of the brush apply friction to the surface of this leather. It's going to draw those fats, waxes, and oils up to the surface, and it's going to hydrate and nourish the leather. And that's how it was created. That's why Horween did it that way. It's so that it could be very low maintenance, and it could take care of itself as long as somebody is just kind of doing the brushing every so often. You can hydrate it, you can condition it, but Horween, Alden, all these companies, they say you don't have to. You could just wear it and brush it. That's it. And Alden puts their own proprietary aftermarket acrylic finish on it to make it even darker and even more uniform than it comes from the Horween tannery as. But Whether with that or without that, the color 8 shell Cordovan burgundy color is a very beautiful color. It's got that depth of color. It's got some pull up, as you can see in the valleys of these rolls here. Slightly lighter shade. It's very dynamic. You look at different lights, you know, like this in different angles, and it's going to kind of change color on you. Even different panels, like if you look at this panel here, it's a lot lighter than this panel here. And all this is going to fade over time if you either leave them out in the sun's UV rays or you just wear it outside a lot. It's going to fade from this dark burgundy into kind of a lighter reddish brown color, closer to what you would think of as a color 4. Some guys are doing that now. They just take their pair and they leave it out in the sun to fade it, just so they can achieve that really cool color. But it's got so much depth and so much dynamic. In here you'll see shades of purple, burgundy, red, black, brown. And depending on what light, you're going to see a lot more of one color or another come out. I'm seeing these in direct sunlight or filtered light, like through a window. Sometimes they just look like straight eggplant colored. And other times they almost look black. It's just a really fabulous leather if you like this kind of thing. Two other features of the shell Cordovan, which people talk about, would be the smell. The smell is just amazing. I don't know how to describe a smell very well, but it's a much more rich smell than your standard, you know, mall pair of leather shoes or bags or whatever. And the fact that it doesn't crease, it rolls here over the vamp. I want you to see these two next to each other. I didn't do the pen trick where you try to train the rolls on your own. I just kind of let them do their thing. So the rolls on both sides of the pair are a little bit different. They're a bit unique. But there's no creasing. There's just rolls. See how beautiful that is. Now, a note to, and this is starting to get into some of the things I don't like as much. A note to care. These are typically known for being really shiny, right? But here's the thing. That's only if you take care of them. If you're constantly brushing them, keeping them safe, keeping them out of the dirt and stuff like that. Keeping them treed, which I have these Alden shoe trees. Fun fact, they're from Rochester Shoe Tree Company in Ashland, New Hampshire. Most cheap trees, like $40 or less, they all come from the same place. Men's Warehouse, your cobbler, Alden. You look at this and you think, oh, it's Alden's, but then you look at the stamp here and they're all coming from Rochester. So fun fact there. But you know, you keep them treed, keep them brushed and all that, and they're going to have this nice glow. They're going to be shiny, they're going to look clean. But it's actually pretty hard to keep them looking great if you're wearing them a lot and not doing that constantly. And so I'm okay with that because I don't need them to look pristine. But if you see all these pictures of them looking super shiny on Instagram, just keep in mind that's either a guy who takes care of his shoes, he's like constantly brushing them and stuff, or it's a guy who just doesn't wear them a whole lot. He puts them on for a shot, takes a picture and puts them away. Or maybe he has just a very sedentary lifestyle, and that's okay too. He works in an office, he walks very gingerly, he, you know, doesn't bump into things at all, he doesn't rub his heels on, you know, the roller leg of his chair or anything, right? So that exists too. But if you're not that, like, I just want you to see some of this. Like, I see a lot of these scuffs and scratches. Now, I brush these a few times a week. By the looks of things, you wouldn't think I'd do that, right? And so, yeah, these are not necessarily the easiest to keep looking immaculate. So you want something that's going to look really nice and clean all the time. You should really be wearing calf. I know it seems cliche. Everyone has calf. Every dress shoe in the world practically is made out of calf skin. It doesn't feel special, it doesn't look special, but that's what it's for. Calf is really easy to keep looking great, especially if you're going to give it a polish every so often. You know, shell can look good, but it's going to take some work to keep looking like that. So anyways, I'm a huge fan. This is probably one of the most comfortable pairs I've ever had. It's up there in the top 5 or 10 for sure. But is it dressy? I wouldn't say so. It's got some scuffs and stuff. So moving on further into some of the things I don't care for. One would be the leatherboard heel stack. I think at this price point, that's a bad move. Maybe they do it because it makes the boot lightweight. I tend to think it has more to do with the fact that they're trying to save cost or something like that. I don't know, but at this price point, I would expect everything to be made of real leather, including this heel stack right here. So it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies knowing that this is leather board. Does it mean it's going to fall apart? No. It's probably not going to have, you know, a failure in integrity or something like that, but it's just the concept of it. But now we get into the big deal. It's QC, quality control. You know, I'm not going to question their business philosophy. Every company has to decide for itself how they're going to make their business run. You know, they've got all the demand on this side, and then they've got manufacturing on this side, and they have to reconcile the two. They're either going to meet the demand and make all that money, which means they're probably going to lose quality a little bit, or they have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, you know, we could sell X amount of pairs, but we're going to decrease our volume so that we can maintain this certain level of quality. And every company has to decide to draw that line in a different spot. So I'm not questioning their decision. They've been around for a really long time. I'm sure they know what they're doing. But if we're strictly just talking about quality isolated from the reality of business in this world, their quality is pretty laughable. It's pathetic. It's sloppy. And I'm not just basing that on this pair. I will show you some things on this pair, which will, you know, cause you to maybe question their quality a bit. I'm talking to friends. I've seen friends with, you know, a few pairs, 10 pairs, dozens of pairs, scores of pairs. I've looked at Instagram. I've been on forums, Style Forum, all this stuff. And I'm not saying overall you're buying garbage with Alden. As I said before, there's actually a ton of positives Alden has that most other companies, or maybe no other companies, can offer you, which is why I own these. Like, I'm not selling these. I didn't go to someone else. I went to Alden. So I'm not saying don't buy Alden, but strictly in terms of quality, there's just some stuff they're doing that's just like, wow. And it's not just my pair. It's a lot of other people's pairs as well. So I'll show you mine, and I'll talk about some of the others. So the first one here would be, look at these. You know, I've seen this on other companies too, to be fair, but this is a pair of shell, so this is kind of upper end. And if you look at this hook right here, it's misplaced. It's too close. See that? It's too close to the eyelet. So that's off. But then you start looking closer, and let me be clear, this is stuff that no one sees. But when I get a pair of boots, I'm trying to see, hey, like, what are they doing with this? Like, what decisions are they making on the line when they're putting these things out? You know, what are they covering up? All that. So right here, you'll see there's some stitch holes underneath this eye stay, underneath this quarter. It's like they stitched it once and it was in the wrong spot, so they pulled the stitches and they did it again. And I get it. They don't want to waste a piece of shell, but I see that and I'm just like, guys, really? On a boot this expensive? Come on. There's that. The French binding's a little chewed up here. Totally wearable. Nobody notices it, but I want to point it out just so you have a realistic perspective on what you can expect from Alden. You know, if you've never seen one before, there's not a store near you, a review like this is the best kind of information you can get. Like, you can't see anything other than a product shot. So I want to show you this, not to dissuade you from buying Alden, but so that you go into it with eyes wide open. So look at this too. The stitching right here on the tongue, it's a little chewed up, right? That's not the straightest thing. Another thing is, so I noticed this one day, I was holding them by the heel like this, and I was brushing, okay? Holding by the heel, brushing, and I looked down and I realized that this heel is kind of separating a little bit. You know, obviously you got to pull on it a little bit, but it's not like I was pulling on it super hard. I was literally just holding it, and I noticed, oh, there's a crack there. So, is it going to fall apart? No. But, you know, I've got boots from other companies. I've had tons of boots, and I've never seen another pair of boots do that. Grant Stone, Truman, Viberg, Nicks, Whites, Westco, Parkhurst. So it's just kind of like, it's leatherboard to begin with, and then it kind of wants to pull away. And my wingtip boots from Alden, same thing. So it's like, okay. And then, you know, you got this little hole right here in the shell Cordovan. You know, there's also, this I'm not calling a fault, but it's definitely kind of a blemish of some kind. There's like these dots right here, hidden by the dye on the shell Cordovan. And then, you know, the welt joints. You look at Grant Stone's welt joints, which are a fraction of the price of these, and they're typically like totally seamless, almost invisible. And then Alden's aren't bad, but they're not great either. But some of the other things I've seen with Alden is, you know, the soles failing. I've talked with other friends who have wingtip boots from Alden, and some of the perforations on their wingtips aren't punched all the way. Like it's like it punched, but the leather never fell out. So it's like, you know, having a donut and the donut hole is still in the donut. You know, that kind of thing. I've seen them put 2 different colors of binding, French binding, on the boots. You know, I've seen them do all these things and just send them to the client that way. So I get it. There's a ton of pairs and all that stuff, and it's hard to keep track of everything, but this is what we pay them to do, and I just don't think they're doing a very good job. So if you're buying Alden for one of the other reasons, you're buying for the fit, you're buying for the experience, you're buying to be able to go into a store. You know, you want good customer service, you want something that's pretty reliable, you want this particular look, or the Barrie last, or you want to take part in this tradition that you're only going to find with Alden. Like, they're the, other than Allen Edmonds, they're like really the only great, you know, New England footwear maker of their kind still in existence. You know, if you want to take part in that legacy, you know, there's many reasons to buy Alden, but quality control should not be one of them. I'm warning you right now, if you think you're buying like the best there is or something by going Alden, you're totally wrong, and I would discourage you from buying Alden. So fit and sizing. I got into this a little bit ago, but Barrie last, you basically just go down a half size from your Brannock. And so I'm a 10C Brannock. If I was a 10D, it wouldn't be any different. You go down a half size to a 9.5D. If you were like a 10E Brannock, you go down a half size to a 9.5E. And that's pretty much spot on as far as alignment and length and everything. As far as volume goes, as someone who has really low insteps and low volume, these close like this on me. But after I do that, they fit nice and snug, but not too tight. So I would say if you have a moderate or high instep, you know, then they'll be out here, and that's going to work fine. So if you're like me, you have super skinny ankles and stuff like that, and a low instep, rest assured these could still work for you. Unlike something like the Grant Last from Alden, which, you know, that's got a high instep, and if you have low volume feet, you should not try the Grant Last. So overall, I'm really loving these boots. I'm wearing them at least once a week, but usually a few times a week. When I first got them, I was wearing them like 4 days a week, you know. And they're holding up really well. They're one of my most comfortable pairs of boots. I'm really happy with the shell Cordovan. I'm really excited to see how it continues to wear over the years. And despite the quality control issues, I think Alden offers a lot of other things. And so, will I buy a ton of other stuff from Alden? Probably not, but there's certain things that they can offer you, I think, that not anyone else can. So that's my review on the Alden Plain Toe Boot on the Barrie Last in Color 8 Horween Shell Cordovan from the Alden shop in San Francisco. Thanks so much for watching, and as I always say, let your boots take you to places more important than the boots themselves. See you next time.